table, and today we're going to talk about making friends over the age of 50 or 40 or in that time, in midlife, and how it can be difficult. So we've got some guests today. We have Laurie that lives in our neighborhood, and
Karen, who lives in Florida. She's actually my best friend here visiting. So I thought since we are talking about friends, I would kidnap her and make her come on camera.
Yeah, she did. So but don't talk about it. She's willing.
She came willing.
Yeah. And Laurie was so nice to agree to do this, and I met her since I lived here. So we'll talk a little bit about that.
So we're going to start a little bit just by saying this is Hot Flashes and Cool Topics for those people who have no idea what you're watching. We are a podcast for women in midlife and beyond, and we have a YouTube channel, we have blogs, we have a store now.
Yeah, Pinterest,
you name it. We are technically savvy.
Yeah, we are not, but we are trying.
But we are getting the word out as slowly as we can. So we thought our second topic, we asked around, and the second topic seemed to come up a lot, making friends over 50. And like Bridget said, it could be 40, but really making friends once you're either not working full-time, seeing people all the time, or making friends once your kids have left the nest, and most of your friends were your kids' friends' parents, and they're no longer around. And you no longer are going to soccer and, basketball games and,
Yeah, you know what? I feel you. It's like being so thrilled but so glad that last game, and kind of secretly glad your kid didn't make the All-Star team. You know, like, oh, too bad.
So why don't we start with Karen? Karen, tell us a little bit about how wonderful your friendship is with me. Just kidding. No, really. Like how you started making friends when your kids were smaller, and because you're very involved in school.
Yes.
Karen still works at the school.
Kids left, I'm still there. Well, I got involved in the parent organization at the preschool. And I think that's how
we met when Sydney, who's now 21, was in a carrier.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And I got involved there, and then just kind of never left that. That moved into the regular school, the elementary school, the middle school, and I was just always involved and met more people through that. We luckily have maintained, even though the kids are gone.
Right.
But even a lot of those women that at the time I was so close to, I don't even know where they live these days, So you do make those friends, but then you kind of lose them along the way. But then I make other friends. I do jazzercise every day. Back at home, and I've made very close friends with those women, with the owner very close to, the other class managers, the students, very close to all of them. So it's just kind of a different dynamic. And then I work part-time at the school. I was always kind of the go-to volunteer.
And then I've seen that happen so much.
She just stayed.
I was the volunteer in the theater department, and then my son was also in the theater department as obviously a student, as an actor, and I didn't want to be on payroll when he was still there. I didn't want that to look weird.
You don't want to be that mom.
Especially being in theater.
Okay. Oh, we know why he got
because
his mom's
here.
So after he graduated, then I stayed on and got paid to do what I was volunteering to do. And he left. My daughter got involved. She was costuming. But she was also the soccer player.
Okay.
And she loved
you. Never had it even to yourself. If you were theater at night and soccer.
So and then she graduated, and I'm still there. But I'm part-time. I do the after-school stuff. But it is nice to be with adults.
Yeah.
Right. Other than my honey.
During the day. Throw him in there.
Hi, Brandon. And so that's good too. But we always talk about, Brandon and I, about moving. One day we want to get out of Florida. We want to get out of Florida.
Got 2 houses for sale right here.
There.
And that is a running theme for a lot of people. Once you become an empty nester, you either downsize or you move completely.
But then one of my biggest fears is, am I going to sit in the house all day by myself? If I don't come here.
You'll
come here. You guys, if you're somewhere else, we talk about Carolinas or Georgia or whatever. I don't want to sit in the house all day. I have to find friends. My sister moved about a year ago to the Atlanta area from South Florida, and that's one of the things that she doesn't really have any girlfriends.
Oh, really? She's
So
having trouble making
it's
friends
hard.
there.
It is.
hard.
It's very hard.
And that's a fear.
Yeah.
And I think it's a valid one because
Yeah.
a lot of time
It was
we
my
talk
fear.
about it's an area that you're at. Like we made the conscious decision to move into an area where there were a lot of people that had a lot of involvement. There were concerts and shows, and that was a factor that I don't think when we moved and the kids were little that I even thought about.
No,
Right.
That
Yeah.
was
it's about the kids then.
right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And now it's
That's
like we
so-
have to
Right.
we have to be entertained as well. So I
Yeah.
think one of the things that we can suggest is finding in your neighborhood if there's something like an email newsletter, like if there's an email list. I want to say newsletter, but they don't really do those anymore. But there might be an email list of people who get together to go walking or hiking or biking or go to the movies. So keep that in mind when if you're
Yeah.
moving or if you're in
Right.
an area where there are a lot of houses and people.
Right.
Or,
So,
or
yeah.
we're going to create it.
Yeah.
So we know in our
yeah.
neighborhood, there's one woman that has been here, one of the first houses, and she's probably leads every committee.
Oh,
So she's
yeah.
created them.
She has great, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
so-
you could be the creator of it. So, Laurie, why don't you, you can tell us how you ended up here. You were talking about something earlier, so that was really interesting.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, I grew up a military brat, so I was used to moving a lot. I went to 9 schools in 12 years. We were fortunate to live at Fort Bragg for 6 straight years, and then I moved to Raleigh to go to college, Raleigh, North Carolina, and I ended up living there for 30 years. Well, right when I became an empty nester and my oldest daughter graduated from college, she moved to New York and I got remarried and we moved to Dallas, Texas.
Yeah.
So suddenly I was almost 20 hours away from all of my friends, but we moved into an area that we were living in a neighborhood that we could walk to about 100 restaurants, which was great and exciting when you're empty nesters and you can do all that. But my husband traveled all the time.
Yeah.
And so it was really hard for me to make friends because I would have thought living on top of my neighbors, I would meet them, but they would pull into the garage, shut the door, and I work out of the house. So it's not like I was going to an office to interact with people.
Right.
So the only places I would meet people were either at the gym or we said the whole time we lived there, all our best friends were wait staff or bartenders. Because that's the only people we met.
That you went
Yeah,
to. Yeah.
And you're like, well, what does that say about us? But we just really, and we met like one man that I kept running into when I was looking at houses, trying to find a place to live. And I kept running into him, and he was a divorced man, but he became our good friend. But then he lost his job about 3 months after he moved in and had to move away. And we were like, we made one friend,
And they had to move away. Yeah.
we moved away. So,
Yeah.
so it was just kind of very interesting. So then my husband's job brought us here, and we stayed downtown in Nashville for like 10 months in a corporate apartment, thinking we would like to be able to walk to a bunch of stuff again. But we were living in an apartment with a bunch of Vanderbilt kids.
I've heard that. Your
or-
child.
Yeah.
Your
or
child.
My daughter
yeah.
put a little loud.
Yeah. I've heard that.
Young
She's really
professionals, even though I don't know how they can afford it there. But
We wonder that.
yeah, and so we thought, we're going to be in the same situation. We were like in Dallas, and we won't make friends. So our realtor told us about this neighborhood, so we came out here, and hearing what all the realtors were saying about this neighborhood, we were like, it's either this neighborhood or downtown Nashville. No in between. I just don't want to go in some random neighborhood that's going to just be a bunch of kids and no social life. So I was so glad we made this decision.
Yeah.
Because my husband travels a lot, but in this neighborhood we can't I mean,
Calendar's
there's
full.
so much
Yeah.
to do.
Yeah.
For example, today I've already gone to Bible study. I'm doing this, and I'm going out to dinner with a group of girlfriends that we go out once a month. So
Yeah.
That's nice.
you know, and my sister's always like, "Oh my God, you're just going all the time."
Yeah.
But I like doing that.
Right.
So
Yes.
that's my personality. So
Right.
I'm fine
Right.
with it. You know?
And that's how I met Laurie at the
Oh.
Pure Bar. No sponsor,
Exercise.
but exercising at an exercise class.
She could be
It's like it was
Right.
here, it was right here in our neighborhood. She's there. It's like just kind of struck up a conversation, and but then I'd see you at the pool, and that was really great.
Right.
Yeah, here too.
And that's,
Yeah.
especially because we have an adult pool.
Yes.
So
that's nice.
if you
Yeah.
don't have children
nice.
at home or anything, you can just mingle with people like us.
It's
So,
great.
so it works out really nice. So
Yeah.
and then there's an abundance of just activities that they organize, and the bunko groups, and I mean there's a million ways to meet people.
Right.
Like you say, the outdoor
Concerts, yeah.
and, volunteering,
Right. Yeah.
witch ride.
That's right. The
I mean,
witches,
there's
right?
so
Yeah.
many
Yeah.
That sounds
love the
fun.
witches'
It's
Right.
a ton of fun.
You need to do it, Colleen. You should come in.
I've been
and do it.
trying to convince her to move.
Yeah, well, you should
No.
move, or at least come in for the
Well,
witches'
we'll
ride.
convince you.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a competition.
It's
Oh.
for
Start a
cancer
GoFundMe.
research. Yeah.
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 And the nice thing is, a lot of people do move here that are empty nesters because their children live in the neighborhood,
That's right,
their
yeah.
grandchildren live here, and so they've all moved away. And I think it goes back to like when I was living like at Fort Bragg. When you moved into a neighborhood, people would be knocking on your front door just to see if they had kids, their
Right.
age.
Oh, wow.
And because you lived in neighborhoods based on your parents' rank in the military,
Okay.
back in my young days, it was mainly men, fathers and stuff. But now, there's many women in the military too. But you were by rank, and so you figure when my dad was an officer, that they all started right after they graduated from college. And so almost everybody in the neighborhood was the same age, like your parents were the same age, and so therefore the children were the same age. And so you had different groups within just the neighborhood, but I hung out with like 15, 20 kids, like all the time. We did everything together. And so I had lived that way for so long to, then when I moved back to North Carolina for college, you meet people through college, and then, my husband was a few years older than me, so he had his friends from school, so I hung out with their friends. And most of us ended up staying in Raleigh after we graduated, so we still always had friends. And then we started meeting new friends through the kids once they started school and their activities and all that. So it was always so easy to meet people until you become an empty nester, and if you move, it's
and if you're not working out of the home,
Yeah.
it's like
and I was working out of my house, and,
Yeah.
and so you don't interact with people
And
in
it's
an
hard
office.
to jump. Like a lot of people do want to either move after their kids go to college or downsize, and they're afraid. They're so used to their pattern and their friends and their lifestyle that to jump is a kind
it's
of
scary.
scary idea.
It is.
When we were moving here, Karen's first response was, "Why?
Don't
Where
like
to
to
go?
move.
Where is that?
Wait,
What
why?
did bring you here, though?
Yeah.
A couple of different things. I never liked Florida.
I didn't do it.
The only thing
I couldn't be able to afford
I
that.
really only liked my family and Karen. But I never really liked Florida, so I knew for my husband's business he had to be down there. But once the kids had graduated, and the kids were in the same school from the time they were younger, so they had their friends, I knew I wanted to move. My husband loves music. He's an attorney, so we had to go into a state where it was similar for him to be able to practice. We were at a point where he could work from home. And it just, timing seemed to work. The kids were in college, and we were like, okay, let's go look at a few places. And it happened to be that Tennessee was the first place we looked at. And I pulled into this neighborhood, and there was just something about it. There was something about, like you said, all the activities, and the fact that there was a doctor here, and there was a dentist here, and there's a grocery store here. And as you get older, you like to have amenities right there, where even if you don't use them, just that they're available.
You're not
to
thinking
you.
about the school, you're thinking about the house.
Right, I'm no longer
Yeah, even though
worried
in the
about
house, school. There
Right,
is a school
we're
in the
still
neighborhood.
so close to Nashville that
Right.
you can go do activities in Nashville if you feel like it, or
Right.
it's just an Uber ride.
Right.
You know, so we still have all of that
It's the best of both
outside
worlds,
of
definitely.
the neighborhood.
Right.
You know,
Right.
But for those people who don't live in environments like ours where there's a lot of
Right.
opportunities, I did a little research because, I want to be able to answer people's questions that say, I don't live near anyone,
Right.
or I'm
And what's
my
my
sister.
Yeah. And I
She said
couldn't
moved
never
down to
listen to that
Georgia.
in the country.
I couldn't either.
Oh,
And I have
to be,
siblings that
you know.
do, and I grew up on
But
10
you have 12
acres.
of you, so we
I have
said
12,
10.
but I grew up on 10 acres. And even though it wasn't like way out in the country, I'd go to a friend's house and they would have there's their friend right across the street and ride their bike where it wasn't grass or gravel road. And I loved just being at my friends' houses and being in their neighborhoods. And I really hated living on all the
acres,
property.
yeah.
I really did. And I have never wanted to move back. There was one time I kind of wanted to buy the house that I grew up in after my mother passed away. But I knew that was going to be a challenge. Like, oh, I'm going to have to deal with all this grass. And like, we have the smallest,
That's,
our
that's
houses
true.
have gotten bigger
Yes.
and our yards have gotten smaller.
Well, the desire
Yeah.
to, as we get older, to maintain
Right.
All that
property
stuff
is just not
is
there.
just-
And
Oh,
in
you don't
Florida, you
spend
have to have a
everything.
pool.
No,
Yeah.
no.
Or you have to pay
That's
somebody.
right. And we do, and I mean, my husband would take care. I used to do yard work. I got poison ivy. I said, I'm done with this. I got it really badly.
You're
And
like,
I said, I'm not doing this anymore. And so he was doing the grass for a while, and he works a lot. And I just finally said, let's just get someone to do this. And he is
Yeah.
so thrilled with it. And it doesn't take any time.
As
So
small as our lots
it's,
are.
yeah,
Right.
they're
You can
not
mow it
big.
in
Yeah.
5
But
to 10
yeah.
minutes.
But some of the suggestions that were
Oh, I
given.
didn't know. I didn't get to tell my story.
I'm sorry, you
Can I tell my story?
Absolutely.
No,
Here.
well,
I'm sorry, I'll just drink.
no. So anyway, and I may have mentioned this through empty nesting too, that we moved here right when my daughter, my youngest, was going to college, and my husband got a job offer here. So we looked all over Nashville. We looked North Nashville, in Nashville, and he works north of Nashville. So it was going to
big
be a
commute, yeah.
really long commute. And there was a similar neighborhood in Louisville, Kentucky, I was from that area. And so we were actually thinking of moving to that subdivision after the kids graduated. And I found this neighborhood just looking at homes. And I told my husband, I said, there's a neighborhood just like that one. And then he was like, oh no, that's gonna be too far. And the more we looked, the more we kept looking around. We came to the downtown of this area. We came out here, and then it got to the point we're just looking in this neighborhood. So that's how, that works. But the first year was still a little hard. We moved in January.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have a lot of the businesses open yet, like where I met you, that wasn't open yet. So I joined, what was it called? New Neighbors, a New Neighbors, which was fine. It was great. It got me out of the house the first year. After a while, there were a few people in the neighborhood that were in that, but not many. And the more people I met in the neighborhood, the less I had, less I wanted to leave. So I didn't want to do that. So it just kind of has evolved, but it's important to get involved.
Right.
And I remember we did join our golf course here. And I remember there was just something in there, just like they're going to have this, they have some luncheons there. And I don't go very often anymore. But I remember that first winter I was here, I was like, well, I'm just going to be sitting here by myself. I didn't know anybody there, but I was like, I'm just going to go anyway. And it was
Open
fun.
yourself
It was
up. Exactly.
You just go. But I will say, you were saying when you lived in Dallas, I've had moments where it's been really difficult not past 50. Like when I was in my early 20s, right after I got married, and
Before kids.
Yeah, before kids. And we lived in Indiana, and I worked at a place that really, there was like 2 other people around my age, and that was, everybody else was much older than me. And that was really hard. And it was the first time I'd really lived away from anyone that I knew. I mean, I'd gone to college, but I went from being in this sorority house full of people to no one I knew. No one I knew from my college lived in that town where I moved. And then I did get a job. Then I was a substitute teacher, which you're just going to different schools, so you don't really establish any friendships there. And then we did get transferred to Pittsburgh. And the first year there, it was still a little hard. I wasn't working outside of the home. But as my kids got into preschool, then I started meeting people. Then we moved back to my hometown. Then we moved here. But, just a big thing. I remember when I was in Pittsburgh, my husband was in audit then, and he would travel 2 to 3 weeks out of the year. And it was me and this little 4-month-old. My son was 4 months old.
2 to 3 weeks out of the year?
I'm sorry, out of the month.
That's not so terrible.
You're like, why didn't you, baby? No, it's 2 to 3 weeks out of the month.
Okay, that makes sense.
And I lived 7 hours away from any of my family. And, no one I knew from where I grew up was living where I lived. And so it did take a while. I started teaching at a preschool and kind of met people, but by the time my son was like 2, they had kind of the mommy and me classes. That's how you did it.
Right.
But now, I knew it was a fear of mine. When I moved here, I've got to get myself out of that house, and I've got to try to meet people.
Right.
Because I will be really sad
I
if I don't.
think it is a conscious decision you have to make.
Yeah,
No one's going to come, as we said, knocking on your door.
right.
Say, hey.
Well, we kind of do in this neighborhood.
They kind of do.
Because we have a welcome committee too.
In South Florida, you can do
Yeah.
that.
Well, no, 'cause you
we
could
have
be
a
killed.
welcome
Right.
South
Plus, you're in a
Florida.
gated community, and you're like, why is somebody knocking on my door? You know?
Right. It's more like and I have to be honest,
Yeah.
when I first moved here, and my husband and the kids and I all thought the same thing. Why are you being so nice? Like, it was a definite, we weren't used to it. People,
Right,
for
in
the
the
most
South.
part, keep to themselves in Florida. And when they try to talk to you, usually they want something. So you're waiting for the punchline of, and that's why I'm asking you to do X, Y, and Z. So in the beginning, someone would knock on the door, a kid in the neighborhood, can I mow your lawn? And I'm like, what else do you want?
Well, you got to figure, like a neighborhood like ours, they say they're building about 150 new homes a year right now.
Wow.
It's been going on for 12, 13 years, I guess. So at that rate, and we still have years to go where they're moving in at that rate. And then you got to figure everyone that moves that is in a brand new house, that, some people have lived in 5 and 6, 7
Yeah, they
houses
like
here
to
in this
switch
neighborhood, like
Right.
move around.
Yeah.
Right.
And then you get all the new people coming from other states and stuff, but we do have a welcome committee that
And I think that's what I
the
first
one lady
called it,
organized years ago when it was
Yes.
just starting to grow.
Uh-huh.
And so we have they invite all the new people that moved
Like
here in the
that
last
month.
couple months,
Yeah.
and we have a welcome reception. We play a game that get to
Yeah.
kind of see what you have in common with people, and then we go and welcome them and bring them coffee mugs
really
and cookies
nice.
or whatever. So it's a really fun way
Yes,
to
it's a very
get
nice
to
way
meet
to-
people that are just moving into the neighborhood too, and find out what you have in common.
Mhm.
Right.
Um,
And
so-
even if you're just, one of the things is that we have porches, and even if you're just sitting on your porch, people will talk to you as you walk by. But for those of you who
That
don't
don't have
live in
that
the neighborhood,
Right.
I just want to start touching on some suggestions that I've looked on to make friends after 50, because it is really hard. And there's actually a website that we have mentioned before on the podcast called meetup.com.
Yes. Yeah.
Meetup.com is not a sponsor yet.
we are promoting it.
Yes, but, and it's not a dating site,
Mm-mm.
it is a site where local people connect to do anything from going to the movies, to going for a walk, to an exercise class, to if you like to knit. What you do is you go on the website, you type in your location, and then you look for groups with like-minded people. So if you're into movies, you would type in movies, and they will pull up, okay, for example, Nashville might have, a group of 500 people because it's a bigger city, but your group may be 10, and that's fine. Or people who go walking on a Friday, or people who like to swim, or there are organizations, and it's not just them. There's a group called nextavenue.org, which is another group that you can look up. Some of the,
Are they national?
they're
Yeah.
national.
Yeah.
Actually,
I joined
there
it
is
in Dallas.
Bumble.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Bumble which is I think it is a dating site, has,
Oh.
you can click on dating or friendship. So they have a friendship one. There's Meetup. There's a thing called We3, WE3. There's peanut.
What? No, I'm teasing. But
Yeah.
I was like, I'm kind of scared of the wee three.
Right.
What's that mean?
He's just going in a different direction.
It seems more of a dating app, but they
You
claim.
think?
All I'm saying is that they claim friends.
Just
I
don't pull it up on your phone.
I am not. I will have the police knocking on my door if
Well,
I
you
do
know,
it on my computer.
I'm trying to address everyone with different interests.
Well, that's true.
Okay,
Okay.
Maybe
No
someone
judgment
out there
zone.
who wants that.
If
Okay.
you want a pineapple on
Excellent
your
point.
front door, you go
Oh,
for it.
that's yeah. Have you heard that?
Yes, there's a
I didn't- yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And Bumble has a BFF group.
So there's nothing wrong with the pineapple.
No,
Yeah.
nothing. It's just filled with temptation.
I did not know that till I moved
I
here.
was thinking,
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
that's all I think.
Me too.
If
Me
you look
too.
up and you can't find a group, you can start one. Okay, and there are
True.
likely people who are going to join in, or you
Right.
might have to drive a little further
Right.
to get to it the first time, but then you start meeting people
Right.
and connecting, and you know, there's a good percentage of people who probably had to drive there as well if you're rural area.
Mhm.
There's suggestions to take an exercise class.
Yeah.
You know?
I've met so many
especially
people.
close
Yeah.
to your neighborhood. 'cause
Right.
Yeah.
That, like, we met at Pure Bark, but you go to classes at almost the same time.
Yes.
So you start to see the same people over
Right.
and over, and we have every age range from
Yes,
young
yes.
moms that, well, even some high school and college
Right,
girls
yes.
are in there up to, you know, some people are 65, 70
70,
years
yeah,
old.
yeah.
But we have
In
the
the
same
70s,
at
yeah.
my jazzercise class. We have college students who, you know, come in and out when they're at school. Even some of the instructors are college students. And we have 2 women in the class that are 80.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
everything in between. And we have a woman who just moved here from England
Mhm.
several months ago. And she came with the partner's wife, told her about jazzercise and brought her. And now she's made friends from
Mhm.
that. And one of the things that she had said is she never says no.
They-
Right.
When somebody asks her to do something, she just goes. Even if it's not a good time or she doesn't feel like, she just goes.
Right.
And maybe the next time she won't,
Right, but she'll
but,
try
but
it.
she's
Or
just
they
going
might
to
ask
She's going
you
to
again,
try.
you know,
Exactly.
like, so you
right.
kind
Right.
of just got to get your foot in the door.
Kind of have to
And
get out of
she's
your
made many
comfort zone
friends
a little
that
bit.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
And
just
that's
don't say
good.
no.
That's
When
really
you're getting
smart.
older, to get out of your comfort zone is a little bit harder because
It's
we
hard.
do like our comfort zone.
Sure.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
like you were saying, you have to be willing to kind of go outside what you normally would say no to and say yes.
And you were talking about just the meetups and the groups. So my mother-in-law is in a movie group, and I can't
From
remember.
Meetup, right?
I think it's from Meetup. I can't quite remember how she got into this group, but at the beginning, it was still a little bit like she still wasn't part of the crowd. She felt like yet, but she still went. And then she decided, we're from Kentucky area, I'm going to do a derby party. And she did a derby party, and she invited the movie group. Well, after that derby party, she was in. And it was like, and every year, and I have met these people because I went to her derby party, and they are her very good friends. I mean, they really look out for each other. If somebody is really sick, they're there to help. So it's really amazing what can happen. I mean, she is a single woman, you know, and she stepped out of the comfort zone and just went for it, you know, and I think that's just what you have to do.
But like, I know I'm an extrovert, so it's not difficult for me to meet people, but that's gotta be hard if it's hard for people who are extroverts, it's gotta be really hard for people that are introvert personality.
Right.
And there are
Yeah.
people who are not able to leave the house for whatever
Right.
physical
Right.
Right.
And there are things like virtual book clubs. We have just started one on
Yes.
the podcast where we'll do a Facebook Live. And for those people who can't leave the house but they want to engage,
Right.
there are Facebook groups you can join from, things, not just ours are the best, of course, but not just,
But there's
there
a
are
lot.
Facebook groups for
Yeah.
anything that
Well,
you like.
even our neighborhood has a bunch of different groups, like for travel and
Yeah.
just different things that interest. Just some people will just post out there, like all the women, if we're gonna meet here at
If
this
you would
day, or we're gonna be at the pool or something like that, and just anybody's welcome. So even if you don't like to follow Facebook and stuff like that, we tell people at the newcomers meeting, it's worth finding every club on there just to know what's going on in the neighborhood. And I'm sure there's outside groups like that, just like you can buy, sell, trade outside of,
Right.
you know,
Right.
other places and things.
Right.
But I was going to say that about, like, I know you're in the book club.
Yes, yes.
And, you know, there's
Yeah.
probably multiple book clubs. In
I think there
I'm
might
in
be
multiple book clubs,
Yeah.
but there are in this neighborhood.
Yeah.
I think there's
Yeah.
like 30 something.
Yeah.
Well, we have a bookstore here, too, and she
Right.
creates.
She does a
some-
book. It's a
yeah.
drop-in, which
Yes.
that's so nice too, because if you know that you can't read, if you're not going to be there that month, it's not a big deal if you miss.
It's kind of a drop in.
One of
Yeah.
our bookstores is a drop-in, but book clubs, your library probably,
Right.
you know, where
Exactly.
you live will probably
Exactly.
have a book club, some type of a book
Or there's
club.
one online that you can, if you,
Right. If you can't get out of the house, that is
Right.
something
there
you
are
can do.
options. You
Yeah.
just have to,
Mhm.
like you
Mhm.
said, you have to put a little bit of extra effort into it. Whatever that what you want to do, whatever your goal is, whether to meet people online or to meet people in person, or to start exercising, or to go to movies, or to start baking. We have cooking classes. You can take a virtual cooking class. You can go to a store like Williams Sonoma. They have cooking classes in
Yes.
the mall, and
Mhm.
there are so many things. Knitting stores, a lot of knitting stores just have knitting classes you
Yeah.
can go to.
All the
Game-
local schools also.
Oh, that's, yeah.
You know, communities,
That's
after
true.
school,
Yeah.
the colleges probably
Have something. And
Absolutely. And you could take a class. Speaking of
Yeah,
colleges, you
yeah,
can
yeah.
just sign up
You
for
can.
like Apple Store or the local
Mhm,
college and just
mhm.
audit a class.
and also games. You know, like
Right.
we do bunco, which takes a lot of thought. No, it takes no
Roll
thought.
the dice.
But I never have played bridge, but I know it's really actually good for your brain
Right.
to be thinking bridge, euchre, whatever.
Mahjong.
What's that mahjong? Which I know is probably pretty hard, but I don't know. I hear from some women that are in it that they can't like talk in between, so I would totally be bad for
Oh,
that.
okay.
Bunko, you can-
They
I
would
talk
kick-
to movies, so.
they would kick me right out of there. But it is, those are other things you could do, which you could also look at Meetup. And just look for that. Is there a group? If you know how to play, if you don't know how to play, there's probably someplace that will
YouTube.
teach you how to play.
You can just look on YouTube.
You could look on YouTube, or you could also. Sometimes someone will say, "I'm going to teach bridge lessons." I think I've seen that somewhere, and I don't know where.
Oh, I think there was a cards game.
Was there one? There was
Yeah,
somewhere
cards
where
game.
they said they would teach you how to play
Or
these things.
something.
So it is just kind of looking just a little
Volunteering
bit.
also.
Volunteering is
Right.
great. Yes.
You know,
I mean,
there's
just-
always people out,
That was
organizations.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
No, but that's good.
Yeah.
I jumped ahead.
No, no,
Yeah.
I think it's number two.
Get involved in your church, and
If
if you
you're- yeah.
volunteer for different things, you
Yeah.
usually meet people.
Meet people there,
You know,
yeah.
those kind
That
of
are
things.
like-minded.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. There's like you said, church groups. There's charitable organizations. There's cancer research programs. There's children's groups. There's
Humane
foster
society.
care.
Yeah.
Oh,
Humane-
yeah.
If you don't
We
like
have that
humans, pets are
habitat
Yeah.
build.
Oh, that's right.
Here,
I haven't
and
done that one.
It's
Yeah.
it's a fun one because it's the women habitat build, and we have sponsored like 4 or 5 days, and you spend a whole day like working with somebody that you might not have met, and then by the end of the day you've had to learn how to
Work with
together,
them. Yes.
you know?
Yeah. And you might learn how to do some
you like
building
skills
stuff. Yes,
too.
some
It's
skills.
worth it just to
And,
go
I
for
mean,
that, to learn
I
how
was
to use
thinking
the
that.
saws
I haven't
and
done that one yet.
It's really fun.
And
Wow.
sometimes it's just getting out of your comfort zone, sitting down at a coffee shop and
Mhm.
talking to a stranger.
Or a
Mhm.
bar.
Mhm.
Or bar.
Or bar.
You know, with our dynamic, I'm the introvert and she's the extrovert.
Oh, wow.
So she had, in the last 20 plus years has really pulled me out of any comfort zone I could possibly
Oh, wow.
have. I would
Wow.
be like, no, and she'd be like, okay, what time should I pick you up? You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
She didn't hear you.
I'm done. I'm leaving. Okay, bye.
Yeah, like we-
And what's your name?
I've experienced so
I'm
many
the same way.
things because she has taken me out of our comfort zone. So sometimes it's just meeting one person. It
Right.
doesn't have to be a huge group
Right.
of people. If you want that, that's awesome.
Mhm.
But if you make one friend, sometimes that's what it works well too.
I think we're fortunate here too, where like if you go up to one of the restaurants in the neighborhood, you're gonna see somebody that
She
you
was there last night.
Yeah,
with
that's-
us.
Yeah.
Everyone that
somebody.
walked in, this woman knew.
Yeah. She's the new mayor.
I met the
I'm not
tennis
you.
coach. And
Yeah, but another girl that I play tennis
Right.
with. Yeah, and that's a sport. If there is a sport that you
Right.
like,
Right.
I'm sure.
just like exercise as
golf,
well.
tennis,
Golf or
whatever,
tennis, and we, everywhere I've lived, there has been some group. Now, when I lived in Pittsburgh, I didn't look for it because my kids were little, and I couldn't even just to
You
get a
didn't have the
second.
time.
I didn't have the time. But everywhere I've maybe not Indiana, but I bet if I'd looked a little harder, maybe I would have been able to find that. But where I've lived, somebody has had a group. Hey, ladies, would you like to get out together and play tennis? So that's, tennis is nice, and you can even start at the beginning of that, but really any sport that you've liked. Running clubs, which I did run for a while, and I used to really like it, and there were running clubs everywhere I went, and I was not a fast runner, but it didn't matter. The group would get together, and there were some really fast ones, and I was always really slow. Every Saturday morning they'd do this really long run, but if you couldn't even do the really long run, that was okay, and you would do this run, and they'd all go to McDonald's for breakfast afterwards, and they still do that. Like they've run off,
Exactly.
and we just meet at McDonald's there.
we would meet at this. True.
My girlfriend's running, like, I'll meet you at the finish line.
I'll meet you at the finish. But I remember there was like a lady that was pregnant at the time, and she was a runner, but she was really pregnant. So, but her husband ran. She's like, I'm just gonna walk. And when you guys start coming back around, I'll walk back and I'll meet you there. And she was with somebody else that I'll walk with you. And so that's pretty much, I'm sure there's groups here that do that, or walking clubs or anything.
Even for the young mothers and stuff,
that's true.
They would
I live by the
exercise with their strollers and their little
Yeah.
yoga mats and stuff.
I don't like that. Okay, I live right by the fountain. There's a boot camp, so
And you don't
I
like
don't
that?
like the boot camp. No.
You
I don't like the
noise.
noise.
Oh, you can
Because
hear
they
it.
have the music
Oh, no.
blaring.
Oh, I thought I
That's a
said,
story for
let those mamas.
Oh no, they
do
can
their
exercise
thing.
all they want. I just know when they hear the disco music, the techno.
Oh.
You know, if they had little
Is it
James
early?
Taylor. Well, there's a 12 o'clock and like a 6 a.m.
gonna do
6 a.m.
Yeah, there's like a 6
Oh,
That's
oh,
a James
I
Taylor.
take it on the Friday complaining.
Luckily, they don't do it in the winter, so that's
But and that's we talked about exercise classes, and I remember when I did work, getting up before like at 5 a.m. I don't know how I did that. Going to work out, then going to work.
that was crazy.
That was crazy.
That was
And I did it though.
As a teacher, you have to be.
I did. I had to get up at 5. It was 5.
So another thing that people say is just get dressed, make yourself feel good, and go out. Like I know with my mom, since we're talking about moms, she loves to go to Neiman Marcus, the little cafeteria there, and she'll go shopping for the day. And she has plenty of friends. I'm not saying she doesn't, but she loves to go there. All the waiters know her, and they're like, "You haven't been here this week. What's happening?" And it just makes her feel good to go, and it can be very simple things. It doesn't have to be a big, grandiose things. If maybe you want to get a pet if you're living alone and you're able to take care of them properly.
But that's a great way to meet people. I don't personally have a pet, but I know when I'm visiting my daughters and you're walking the dog, you go over to the dog park or whatever, and then everybody else's dogs are over there, and then it's almost like your children where they start like, oh, what kind of dog is that?
Like,
what
do you do? How's the training going? How's this? And
so
then
it's amazing, how many people you can meet if you have a pet.
Right? Especially a dog that you can walk around.
Yeah, a friendly dog.
A friendly dog, not a bean dog.
Well, and Ollie, we have to kind of. He's wonderful. He's so wonderful, but he's very protective. He's a foxhound, so he's
because when I come over, he's so sweet.
No, he loves people, but if he senses they're not nice.
See.
But I think a lot of, I've met some people just walking around the neighborhood where it's like, I know the name of the dog, but I don't know.
Yes.
It's like, oh, that's Jimmy Choo's mom.
Jimmy Choo's mom.
I want to meet Jimmy Choo.
I do too. I think I've seen
the bulldog.
Okay, it's funny. We all know the bulldog. We're not even looking at the owner.
Yeah.
But oh well.
And sometimes they say like,
but if you're listening, they'd love to meet you.
Yes.
Actually, I think I met them at Porch Fest. They also say that you could, if certain restaurants in your neighborhood have a trivia game night, go do the trivia night and go along, because most of the time there are a couple people there looking for groups. So it could be your local restaurants, it could be your local bar, bars, and find a trivia night and go do that. It's just, there are things that, start a blog was one of the things I read, that if you're expressing that you're having trouble finding friends, try going on writing a blog and sending it out into the universe and see what it brings you.
One thing I've done on several occasions when I would travel to Boston when my son was at school, or when I would be on a school field trip, and there would be a big, I went to University of Florida, So there'd be a big football game or a big basketball game. I would look up where's the Gator Club meeting,
Right.
and I'd find that place, and I'd go there by myself. But all those other people
And
were
you have
also
that,
into
yeah, you
it
have
too.
that in
Right.
common. We did do that in Dallas too.
Mm-hmm.
My husband's a big LSU fan, so of course I am now. But we had, they had one of the biggest alumni chapters other than Louisiana was in,
Wow.
was in
Wow.
Dallas. And
Dallas.
there happened to be a watch bar that we could walk to from our
Those are
house.
fun.
Yeah, and I mean, you could get hundreds of people
Yeah,
at some
yeah,
of these.
those,
You know, they
yeah.
had like 5 watch bars. That's how many. But at least you have that in common with
Yeah.
these people.
Right.
And
you
it's
know,
something
you're
to
all
do for a
sharing.
few hours.
Yeah.
You don't have to make best
Right.
friends with anybody,
Right.
with everybody.
Right.
But you sit and you chat,
You're
you have
social.
fun,
Right.
and you cheer, and then you leave, and you're like, I don't want to talk to them anymore. But that's okay.
Right.
Yeah.
But you got your fill of social
Yeah,
interaction.
yeah, you
Right.
got
Right.
So-
Because it's like if there's not enough tables, everyone's like sharing tables, and then you start to interact with people.
Mm-hmm.
It's
So-
making an effort.
Yeah.
You
That
have
is.
to
That's
be
Right.
what
willing.
that seems to be
The
the
running
common
theme,
thread
yeah.
here.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You have to be willing to make an effort.
Say yes to.
Mhm.
Because they're not going to
Getting
come, like you
involved.
said, they're not going to come knocking on your door and saying hi, unless you live in this neighborhood, which is where they knock on your door and say hi, be my friend. It's just not going to happen. And
Right.
even if if a neighbor is elderly and needs help, and you go help them, or someone has young children that they could really use a break for dinner one night, and you go knock on the door and say, I'll take care of the kids. You know,
Mhm.
I'm not a crazy neighbor. That's
Yeah. Yeah.
I have new neighbors that moved in, I think October. I couldn't tell you their name.
Oh wow.
Do you know what they look like?
Um,
See, I didn't even know what my neighbors looked like.
like
And
I
was
when
home
they were putting the trash
like
bin
all
out.
day, like
Okay, well, that's all right.
Oh, you
know,
weren't
I
sure what they looked like. Wow. Yeah.
because they would
we used to
literally
call them
pull
the
in.
wave neighbors. We just waved at them.
No, they would
The
close.
wavers.
Yeah, they would-
Yeah.
Close the
Florida, we
garage.
call them the
Oh
wave.
yeah.
you even got a chance to
To
really
see
what they
them.
looked
Wow. Oh yeah. No, it's
Yeah.
no, I think I met like it was a different person who lived next door to me when I moved in, and it was a horribly rainy day, the day they were bringing our furniture in, just awful. And she was walking her dog, and she came back, brought us like, I don't know, she must have loaves of banana bread waiting, because she brought us a loaf of homemade banana bread and
Oh my
invited
gosh.
me to a book club.
Wow.
And she moved, so the first day I lived here, I got invited to a book club. She moved, and I'm still in the book club. So she moved, I forgot where she moved, and she may move to Florida, and I'm still in the book club.
She could be your
And
neighbor.
she could be your neighbor. No, she doesn't have little kids or anything, but
Did she bring you a loaf of bread?
did she bring you a loaf of bread?
No.
Well, it's not her.
No.
Usually,
Very nice.
usually
Anyway.
in Florida, you wouldn't eat the bread because you'd be like, it's laced with
Yeah.
something.
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, that's kind of how we raised our kids. Sorry.
Wow, wow,
But
yeah.
To be very
Be careful.
protected and careful.
Oh, wow.
And
Well, I'll say that didn't happen
Good.
where I lived. You
That's-
know,
that's nice.
You know, that was not the case when I was a kid, or even where I used to live. I don't think I lived anywhere like that. thank
Oh
goodness.
yes, and
Um,
there are wonderful things about South Florida. Don't get me wrong. Love it.
But
I want to
um,
live there, but love it.
I was just going to say another thing about volunteering. If you are really good at something, you could volunteer to coach at it.
Like
Or-
art, or
That's
Or
an
art.
excellent point.
Yes, you could volunteer to do an art lesson. You don't even have to volunteer to do it for like a whole semester if that's too hard. You could do it at night, or like, hey, today I'll be
A
offering this.
referee.
Yes, you
Yes.
could even,
That's true.
if you wanted to go to your library or a community center or a church and say, I'm good at this and I'd love to teach some people how to do this. And when my daughter was like an Odyssey of the Mind group, which is kind of, I think they call it Destination Imagination around here in Tennessee. I know nothing about sawing and building sets or anything like that, but they just needed an adult there to be their like coach and get their paperwork done. So I did that for like, when I quit teaching, I did that for like until she graduated. And if I still lived in Kentucky, I would probably consider it, but I considered a lot of things when I moved here. I didn't end up doing some of them because I got really busy, but I was like, well, I was in a sorority. They have that sorority at Vanderbilt. I could volunteer with their
Be
alumni.
awesome.
Right. What is that other club that you do?
I did New Neighbors. I
Right
did,
outside the neighborhood.
oh, Junior League.
Yeah,
Junior
Junior
League.
League.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
national.
That's national. So and you don't have to be, some junior leagues, I guess they're a little different, but the one in Nashville, you don't have to be real young. and you just join. So I do volunteer there, and I go to a school. I go to schools. I help with these breakfasts. It's like I'm helping this Friday at 1. So I've met people through there. So you can do that, and they, even within their group, have little breakout groups. Like, hey, we're meeting up for brunch. They also have a book club. So they have like, you know, hey, we're meeting for drinks here if you want to go. So it's great for any age to do.
It is great for any age.
Yeah,
because even my niece, when she started college, she wasn't really friendly with a lot of people. The one friend she had there was also the extrovert. My niece is the introvert, and the other one was doing. So she just went to the club fair and looked at every single club. Which one of these is for me?
Yeah.
You know, my nephew isn't really making too many friends up there, so he just started refereeing at soccer.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
So it doesn't
any of your little talents, gifts, and even if you don't think you're that talented, kids just might need supervising somewhere, or just anywhere. Nursing homes.
I was about to say retirement homes can always use people just to bring magazines, to sit with someone. There are so many volunteer programs out there that you can become involved with that really you're helping someone and you're helping yourself too, which is great. So, and there was actually, I was telling Bridget, last month my husband and I went to this neighborhood in Georgia called Serenbe, which is an urban kind of takeoff on ours, a much smaller neighborhood, but they really push the cultural. So they have outdoor plays that everybody gets involved with. They have galleries, they have wellness centers, they have exercise programs. We actually did, and yes, Randy did this, an astrological counseling session.
Really?
So that was something different.
Right.
Yeah.
But everything's walkable. They have restaurants and shopping, and they didn't have a grocery store. Well, they had a little general store, but
They grew their own.
they do. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
It's a farm. It's a farm. It was by far the best food I have eaten in years.
Wow.
The food was excellent. It was all homegrown. I mean,
Right.
literally, it's
Farm
farm
to
to fresh
table.
table. Like I probably met the chickens before I had dinner that night.
Oh.
I know. But the point is, like, they grow their own food, so they're very self-contained. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere. But they have a beautiful little inn you can stay with. There's a great weekend getaway. And it's about 45 minutes from Atlanta. So
I'm going to have to
what
remember
is
that.
the
Too. Say it again.
it's in Chattahoochee Hills.
Let's see where that
That's
is.
like
It's
a nice
kind of
one.
a
Nice
Chattanooga?
No, it was 2.5 hours from Chattanooga. And I know that's my daughter's in college in
Yeah.
Chattanooga, so we stopped. 2 hours and 15 minutes. But I'm saying, like, if you do the research online, if you do there are probably neighborhoods near you that have little inns that you can go stay for the weekend and see if you like that kind of community. See if it's like I liked it. I couldn't have probably stayed there because it was a little too out in the middle. Like ours has the grocery store; it's a little more active. But it was great. I mean, if you love cultural events, and they had plays and shows, and it was just wonderful. We had a great time. Spas.
Wow.
Could you live in a 55 and up neighborhood?
Could I do that? I'm not 55 yet, but I would have no problem doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Because
I don't really
we
care
have
about
several
age.
friends from here that are moving to one now.
That's a
in the
good
neighborhood.
question.
Yeah. So
I like the mix of ages.
yeah, I do
I do
too.
too.
I like being around children too sometimes.
Yeah.
And now
I
that
like
we have
the
a
amenities,
grandchild.
though.
Yeah.
But that's
yeah.
what I'm saying. I'd
Like,
love if you could.
Can they visit? That was my question.
Yeah.
If you have a grandchild and you live
Yes.
in a
My mom
55
had
old,
Yeah.
55
they can
older.
visit, but they
can't
cannot live
live.
there.
And some of them
Okay.
have restrictions about animals, pets, and things like that.
Yeah.
So I like you were saying, we'll talk a little about what you were saying, amenities, that you would like that.
Yeah, but just coincidentally, we were talking about it yesterday, Monday. Somebody was saying that their mother is going to move into an assisted living, and we were saying, oh, but she's so outgoing, and she's like, oh no, this is a great facility, this is what she wants. They take them to the mall, they take them to Publix, because she can't drive. And this way she gets around, and they have this activity and that activity and that activity. And my girlfriend and I are sitting next to each other. She's barely 50, I'm 53, and we're like, do they have a building for 50-year-olds?
Are they
Ask for a friend.
We want to go to Jimmy Buffett's retirement place
Oh
on
yeah,
the
the Jimmy Buffett. See, I think I would like that.
I would like that.
I think I
I
would
liked
like.
it so
Yeah.
much.
And
Yeah.
The rules are...
Well,
But
and they
that's
do have
not
certain
good
good.
with
Your
rules,
parents
but-
kind of go sometimes kicking and screaming, but I'm not going. I would love to live
Yeah.
in a place like that where they have activities and
Right.
you know, like
Now-
especially if you can't get around by yourself
Yeah.
easily
She was
anymore.
relying on her children all
Yeah.
the time. And
Yeah.
it was making them nuts, and then the friction, and now she's
Now she's happy. I was gonna say the only thing I've definitely assisted living, that's different than like being in a full
Independent.
blown.
There's
Yeah.
independent living, assisted
True.
living.
Right, because I would want my space.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, like
Or you're
yeah.
like in a condo. or
Right.
something like
I
that.
know it until I couldn't think about or I wouldn't know what was
Right.
happening. But I would want my own private space.
Yeah.
Even after having 11 siblings, I like a little privacy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I like
Well,
that.
when we were looking for my in-laws to go into assisted living, and it was one step up, obviously with assisted living, most places have independent living, assisted, and nursing homes. You can literally transition as you get older.
With the same
But what I
company.
noticed is, you know, we always talk on this podcast about changing the narrative of midlife and beyond, that we are defining a new age for women and men in midlife. And I see that reflected in a lot of these nursing homes
Oh,
/ independent living. It's like a cruise on land.
Mhm.
You know, you get in there and they're like, movie night is this night, and our 3 meals are over here served. And if you want to go to the Broadway show, it leaves, you know, the bus leaves at 5. And I'm like, this is not that. The hair salon's on the 3rd floor, and your exercise room is on the 2nd.
Pretty good. Yeah.
Well,
This is not what I pictured nursing homes to be back in the day.
And it's
My
great.
dad was full-time, you know, military, so he retired from the military, and then he got a job working for the state, and he worked 15 years there or whatever,
Mhm.
then he retired. And ever since he retired, he was just sitting home all the time.
Mhm.
Like, go get his hair cut, run an errand, you know, get gas in the car, run his wife to hairdresser, doctor's appointments and stuff. And now last year we had to move them into assisted living. And I think it's funny because I was like, I would just be so bored just sitting there watching TV all day long.
I couldn't
That's
do
what
that.
he's done for retirement. It's like there's so much you could offer to people that, you know, especially being career military or for people coming back from war or something like that, you know, to be able to relate. But it's almost like it's the best thing, even though it's been a hard adjustment for them to move into the assisted living. But he used to call us, like me and my siblings, every Tuesday night. Every Tuesday night. You knew we never hear from him anymore.
Oh, because he's
and I
got so
think
much
that
to
is
do.
positive.
It
I never
is.
know when to call him because he's on a different time
Oh,
zone.
that's great.
You know, but
yeah.
it's like you call and leave a message, and then, you know, it's like several days later you call again and leave another message, and then you
Wow.
finally catch up with them.
Yeah.
And it's like, Dad, I haven't talked to you in like 3 weeks. You
And
know,
it's like, I've just been busy.
Yeah. and
yeah.
because and it's like when I'm in town and they're kind of looking at their watches, and it's like, well, what's up? And they're like, well, we usually go play bingo. And it's
love
like,
it.
well, we can go play bingo, you know?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
and it's almost like a relief, like, oh, thank God.
They're doing that's
You know,
great.
but
That
it's
is
all
great.
that stuff that they,
Oh my
you
gosh.
know, I
Yeah,
can
it's
tell
not it's not
that
the
it's good
assisted
for
living
them.
of yesteryear. It's
Right.
definitely
Yeah, they
more
have.
luxurious.
Yeah.
But it's nice that they have things to do.
Right. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that whoever came up with that whole organizing all of this stuff
Right.
for people, that's wonderful.
Right.
You know, it is great. And if you can't find it, maybe you can start it. Maybe you could, just with one group, one thing that you're good at, maybe you can do it.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And then put it on Meetup, and a bunch of people will
And
come.
you would be surprised. Yeah.
Well, and we've been fortunate too that, like, we have, as new people move in, they try to start new clubs and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Like, for a while they were trying to do a dinner club,
Oh, that was that. Yeah, that
But
was
it's
fun.
right.
but that was a lot to manage.
It was
for
a
somebody
lot
because
for
a
that
lot of
couple that
people-
did it.
Yeah.
They worked their rear ends off doing
Right.
that, and I can see why they let that go because they have young kids. But it was really neat because they would try to organize. All these people would say, "Yes, we want to be in it this month." We did 2 or 3 dinners, and then
Yeah.
they would match
It's
up.
hard for them to
These
organize.
5 couples
Right.
are coming to your house. Like I volunteered to host one night, but everybody would bring something. Like so, it was really great.
But you can do that on a small scale.
You sure
Right.
can.
Just some of your neighbors once a month. Okay, we're gonna have dinner at your house, or we're gonna have appetizer at your house, and then dinner at mine, and dessert somewhere else.
Right.
Or
Right.
you know, Friday night game night. Let's
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
It's kind of like you have to put the effort in to organize stuff too.
Mhm.
You shouldn't be the only person putting
Right.
effort
Right.
in. If
Then-
you're the
then
only
you get
Because
person,
it's hard to manage it.
Right,
Yeah.
And
right.
it's not fun. If it's not fun, don't do it.
Right.
Right.
If
Because we haven't
that's
reached an age
another
where we get
good
to
thing
say
to
that.
say. If it isn't
Right.
fun,
Right.
Or if
You
it's
need to
past
let-
10 p.m. That's
Yeah, for Colleen, she's gonna shut down.
no deal after 10.
Yeah.
But
When we travel, she's the same way.
Oh, I know. No, I think I've said this before. The first time was with her.
I shut it down.
When she made her announcement, and we were at like a place where
We were at a craft place.
and she just was like, it was
Yeah.
it was
It's
like that
workshop.
AR workshop, and she was painting her sign, and we were all painting her signs, and she just went, "It's getting too late, and I'm gonna have to leave." Left her sign.
And the lady's like, "You're not done." I don't care.
I don't care. She left it, and I was
doesn't
finished.
surprise
Yeah.
I literally can see the door, like the garage door closing, and I'm like, "Day's done."
I finished her sign for her, and
And I
she hangs
appreciate
it up
that.
at Christmas on her porch.
I said to them, "I'll come back tomorrow." But I'm
Yeah,
not
but
finishing
yeah,
this
she
one.
just, we're like, well, and I'd finished mine. I was like, well, I think I was giving somebody a ride home that wasn't finished, so I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go finish Colleen's because she's.
Most people are much more considerate of staying, but I have my own car because you also have to prepare. If you
Yes.
know,
Yeah.
that you don't want to
be hostage
inconvenience,
with somebody else's
and you don't
car.
want to inconvenience anyone else. So my friends know I take my own car, unless it's you, and then I just drag you. And then 10 o'clock, doesn't matter the time zone, as soon as that clock says 10 o'clock, I'm done for the night. And that's something I've earned. I've talked about that is a
you're
freedom I
right.
have earned.
Well, you have an extra hour now since you're on Central Time. That's good.
But,
But when I go to Eastern Standard Time, I'm still in bed at 10 o'clock. It's
yeah,
9
and
o'clock
if
our
she
time, I
goes,
don't care.
if you're like in California, you probably still go to bed
I
at 10.
don't care.
Wow.
As soon as that clock says 10 o'clock.
We have been at events on the West Coast where the event is at 9 o'clock. Okay, we're going to come around and sign autographs now. And she goes up to them and says, "You have to come to our table first because I'm on East Coast time and this is 12 o'clock to me."
And I'm going to bed.
And they're like, "You're crazy." And
But
she's
they
like,
do it.
But they do.
Oh my goodness.
I'm very polite.
And she's like, "You don't understand. I have to leave. I am on East
And
Coast
do we
time."
have children?
I didn't sleep, and that was
That's
No,
why you've
figure
earned the
out
privilege.
my
Yeah.
biggest gift when they left the nest before they came back was because they keep coming back, which is great.
That
I
week,
love that.
that
Yeah,
week.
was to turn the alarm off in the morning and say 8 hours a day. I shut down.
But she's up at 3 anyway.
I'm up at
And her brain's-
Perimenopause.
I was like, no wonder
thank you
she
very
doesn't
much.
need an alarm. She's up
And
at
then-
3.
Yeah,
so-
and the dog gets one. But it was something. I didn't sleep when I had kids, and sleep is very important
Oh,
for
it's so-
me.
it's
Like,
so
I'm
important.
A bear when I don't sleep, right?
Mhm.
She's staying silent. So that's the privilege I've earned from raising my kids and not getting that sleep for 20 some odd years.
Mhm.
And my friends are pretty accepting of it. They just know and my husband's like, all right, we're good.
Yeah.
We're
Well,
leaving.
and I think it's true. I think when you said that, I was like, oh my gosh, that's so
You can
refreshing.
do that, right?
You can do that. But when I was younger as well, and my kids were little, I would get up at 5 and exercise, and I would go work a full day, and then I would come home and do whatever I had to do for school and help my kids make sure they had all their stuff done for what they needed to do. I was like just going on just fumes, and I was exhausted. Like I get those years mixed up. Like when did that happen?
Right, it's like a
What was
blur.
going on that
Yeah.
year? I was just like running on adrenaline.
Yeah.
And as the kids got older, now the sleep part is so important now. But
And I'm
you
really in
know,
awe of women who are in their 50s still raising a toddler.
kids.
Yeah.
Or-
That's
Yeah.
my sister.
I-
Well, not toddler, but
I couldn't do it.
Oh, that's why I'm
Six.
glad I had started having my children young
Me
because
too.
I've been an empty nester at an age that I'm still, I was earlier than 50,
Yeah,
so.
you can still do stuff. Yeah. No, I have a few sisters that are older than me that have children younger than my children. So I have two that are older than me that have children younger than mine. And I'm like, oh, like you met one of them last night. And she's got one in middle school and one in high school too, still. And I'm like, oh God, I am so glad I don't have to figure out
I don't have patience
although
for
I
it.
although I love being
Yeah.
around my children. We all know that from the empty nest syndrome, how much I love.
We all
miss my
love being
children.
around our kids.
But that is a very nice little hug.
But they're not
Yeah.
two.
They're
I
not-
don't
yeah.
I
Oh,
don't want
I
to go to
know.
bingo
Yeah.
night anymore.
yeah, I never
Unless
had
it's
to
an
do that.
adult bingo night.
No,
Yeah.
I never had to do that, and I look at my that kind
She
of
signed up
stuff.
for everything.
I mean, I did a lot of
Class
stuff.
mom, people
But you
If I
signed.
didn't run
But
it, I
were
was
you
involved in it.
were you
I
forced?
this class.
No,
she
Oh, I
was.
had a sister
I
that was
enjoyed it.
forced. It made me so angry because she was a single mom with a daughter, and there was some kind of booster club, and I'm going to call y'all out too, you booster club people. Not where my children went to school, they weren't like this, but when my sister had a daughter that was in this booster club, they would force, your parents have to work this many nights, and you have to be in the booster club if you are in this sport. And if she didn't work that
Speech
night,
and debate
this
says
single
that, so-
mom didn't work that night, they were going to fine her. Oh, yeah. I know who y'all are. And I hope somebody shows you.
Yeah.
You're going to get yours one
We'll
day.
send it.
So Carmen
We'll
will
send
get
this
you.
video. To
No, because at that, I remember I didn't live there at the time, and it just made me so angry that my
They don't want to hear your why.
the brother-in-law, the ex-brother-in-law wouldn't show up or whatever, because she's like, I have to do this every night, walk around, people are smoking and doing all this stuff, and if I don't go, which I'm forced to be in it, if my daughter wants to be in the sport, and then you're going to find me, that is so tacky. So, okay, that's my soapbox. Sorry. Sorry, that has nothing to do with really making friends.
Well,
Don't do
We
that.
are running way past the.
Oh, are we?
Yeah.
Is there anything really urgent that you...
No, like we wanted to mention again that we have the virtual book club. Ada Calhoun's book, Why We Can't Sleep, is our first book. Right now it's on the New York Times bestseller list, and she will be our guest beginning March. So please read the book. We're going to do a Facebook Live. We're going to ask questions. If you've ever wanted to ask a best-selling author a question, now's the time, because you can send it to us. And, there are groups out there. You just have to, the internet and Google is an amazing thing. If you just type in hiking groups in my area, they will pull up if they're there. If not, you start one.
You start one. And if you feel like you live in a rural area where the meetups aren't happening, you can put something out there. There's probably someone near where you live.
Feels like you do.
Yeah, that they want to do something like that. So go ahead and go for it.
So thank you, ladies,
Yes,
for joining
thank you
us.
so much.
We appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Make sure to subscribe and
Yes.
to listen and tell every person you've ever met in your life about it.
About us. Yes.
And thanks for
Yes,
watching.
even her.
Yes. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.